The alarm screamed through the monitoring station, and Commander Vexthor's 4 eyes snapped open. He had been reviewing supply reports when the sound pierced the usual quiet hum of the outpost. His clawed hand slammed the response panel and the alarm cut off. "Report," he barked into the comm system. "Sir, we have an unknown contact." The voice of his sensor operator trembled slightly. "It just appeared on the edge of our detection grid." Vexthor pulled himself up from his chair and moved quickly to the command center. The monitoring station was small, just 20 crew members stationed at the edge of Calvarian Empire space. Their job was simple and boring. Watch for pirates, watch for rebels, report anything unusual. In his 15 years at this post, Vexthor had never seen anything truly unusual. Until now. The main display showed a single blip moving through space. It was still far away, but something about it made Vexthor's scales prickle with unease. "What am I looking at?" he asked. The sensor operator, a young female named Sisra, touched her controls with shaking fingers. "I don't know, Commander. The signature doesn't match anything in our database. The energy readings are wrong." "Wrong how?" "The ship is moving faster than anything should. Not using jump gates. Not using any propulsion system we recognize. It's just moving. And the power output." She stopped and looked up at him. "Sir, if these readings are correct, that single vessel is generating more power than our entire battle station." Vexthor felt his blood run cold. "Check your equipment. Run a full diagnostic." "Already did, sir. 3 times. The readings are accurate." He stared at the display. The blip continued its steady approach toward their sector. "Can you get a visual?" "Trying, sir. The distance is extreme, and there's something about the hull that's making it difficult to scan. It's like the ship is slippery. Our sensors keep sliding off it." Minutes passed like hours. Vexthor ordered his crew to battle stations, even though their small monitoring post had minimal weapons. If this was a threat, they would need to call for help long before the ship arrived. But he wanted to know what he was dealing with first. "Got it," Sisera shouted. Visual coming through now. The display flickered, then resolved into an image that made every crew member in the command center freeze. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Sleek white hull with smooth lines that curved in ways that seemed impossible. No visible weapons ports, no obvious engines, no rough edges or armor plating. It looked more like a work of art than a warship. But the size. The readings said it was at least twice as large as their biggest cruisers. "What is that design?" someone whispered. Vexthor didn't answer. He was staring at something else. On the side of the hull, illuminated by the light of distant stars, was a marking. A symbol. Blue and white, circular, with strange patterns inside. He had seen that symbol before, years ago, during his training at the Imperial Academy, in a classified history lesson that all command officers had to take. A lesson about the Empire's greatest shame. "Magnify that marking," he ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. The image zoomed in. The symbol became clear. A blue circle with white continents, a planet, and around it symbols in a language that the Empire had tried to forget. Earth. "No," Vexthor breathed. "It can't be." "Sir?" Sisera looked at him with concern. "Do you recognize it?" Vexthor's mind raced. 300 years. It had been 300 years since the last time anyone had seen that mark. 300 years since the Empire had forbidden all travel to that sector of space. 300 years since they had tried to erase the memory of what happened there. "Send a priority 1 alert to Imperial High Command," he said, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Maximum encryption. Tell them..." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them the Terrans have returned." "Terrans?" Sisera looked confused. "I don't understand." "You don't need to understand. Just send the message now." As Sisera worked frantically at her station, Vexthor pulled up the classified files in his personal database. The files every commander kept locked away, the ones they hoped they would never need to access. The historical records of the Terran War. He read quickly, his heart's pounding. The colony ship. The first contact. The Empire's attack. And then, the nightmare that followed. 6 months of brutal combat. 3 entire fleets lost. An enemy that refused to surrender, refused to follow standard tactics, refused to die when they should have died. The Terrans had been primitives back then. Their technology had been centuries behind the Empire's. They shouldn't have stood a chance, but they had fought like demons. adapted to every strategy, learned from every battle, and when they finally escaped, they had left behind a trail of wreckage that took the Empire years to clean up. If that was what humans could do 300 years ago with primitive ships and weapons, what could they do now? Message sent, sir, Cicero reported. High Command is acknowledging. They're asking for more details. Tell them everything we have. Send them the sensor readings, the visual data, everything. And tell them. Vexthor looked at the display again, watching the ship continue its approach. Tell them we may need immediate evacuation. Evacuation? Cicero's voice rose in pitch. Sir, what's going on? What are the Terrans? Vexthor turned to face his crew. They all deserved to know the truth, even if it terrified them. 300 years ago, the Empire encountered a species from a planet called Earth. We attacked them without warning. We thought they would be easy to conquer. He gestured at the ship on the screen. We were wrong. They fought us to a standstill and escaped. The Empire classified everything about that war because we were humiliated. We lost thousands of ships to what we thought were primitives. The crew stared at him in shock. And now they're back. Vexthor continued. That's a human ship. And if they've had 300 years to advance their technology. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Cicero's screens lit up with incoming messages. Sir, High Command is responding. They're mobilizing the 7th Armada. Admiral Kasavara is taking personal command. They're ordering us to maintain observation but under no circumstances attempt contact or engagement. Vexthor nodded. At least High Command understood the danger. But as he watched the human ship glide effortlessly through space, moving at speeds that should have been impossible, generating power that should have been unthinkable, he wondered if even the 7th Armada would be enough. The Terrans were back, and the Empire had 300 years to fear what that might mean. Admiral Kasavara stood in the war room of the Imperial Command Center, staring at the data streaming across the holographic display. Around him, military advisors and historians worked frantically, pulling up files that hadn't been accessed in centuries. Show me everything, he commanded. I don't care if it's classified. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with. The head archivist, an elderly Calvarian named Thespak, nodded and touched the central console. The room dimmed and images began to appear in the air around them. The incident occurred 307 years ago, Thespak began, his voice quiet and measured. A human colony ship called New Horizon entered our space in the outer rim sectors. At that time, Earth had only just begun exploring beyond their own solar system. The ship was primitive by our standards. Fusion engines, basic weapons, simple hull construction. Kasavara watched as the images showed the old colony ship. It was ugly and blocky, nothing like the sleek vessel they had detected today. What happened? He asked, though he already knew the answer from his command training. Imperial Fleet Commander Zexthal was stationed in that sector. When he detected the human ship, he followed standard protocol for unknown alien vessels. Thespak paused. He attacked without warning. The hologram showed the battle. 3 Calvarian cruisers against 1 colony ship. It should have been over in minutes. The humans tried to communicate first, Thespak continued. They broadcast messages in multiple formats. But Zexthal believed they were primitives who had stumbled into our space. He thought capturing their ship would be easy. He wanted to bring them back as prizes to study. But he failed, Kasavara said. Yes, the colony ship fought back. Their weapons were weak, but they used them cleverly. They targeted specific systems instead of trying to destroy our ships outright. They used debris fields for cover. They adapted their tactics every few minutes. Commander Zexthal reported that it was like fighting an enemy that could read his mind. The hologram showed the battle dragging on. Hours turned to days. The human ship was damaged but still fighting. Then more Calvarian ships arrived. Zexthal called for reinforcements, Thespak explained. He sent for an entire battle fleet. 20 warships to capture 1 colony vessel. But the humans... The old archivist's voice filled with something that might have been respect. They didn't surrender. They didn't run. They organized their defense with precision. Kasavara watched the hologram in silence. The human ship was surrounded, outnumbered, outgunned. Any rational species would have given up. Instead, the humans fought harder. There was a soldier on that ship, Thespak said. A human named Jinwu. When the Calvarian boarding parties tried to take the ship by force, he held the main corridor alone for 3 days. 72 hours without rest. He killed or wounded over 200 of our soldiers before reinforcements reached him. The humans called him a hero. Our soldiers called him a demon. The hologram showed a figure in damaged armor, standing among piles of bodies still fighting. Kosovara felt his skin grow cold. The war continued for 6 months, Thesepak went on. The Empire committed 3 entire fleets to capturing or destroying that single colony ship. We lost thousands of vessels, tens of thousands of crew members, and in the end the humans escaped. They damaged our jump gate network in that sector and disappeared into deep space. How? Kosovara demanded. How did primitives accomplish this? Because they weren't just primitives, another voice answered. An old general named Krevith stepped forward. He had been there, one of the few survivors of the war. They were humans, and we didn't understand what that meant. Kosovara turned to face him. Explain. Every species in the Empire fights according to established doctrine, Krevith said. We have rules, strategies, expected behaviors. When we lose a certain percentage of our forces, we retreat. When a battle becomes unwinnable, we surrender. When facing superior numbers, we negotiate. He gestured at the hologram. Humans don't do any of that. They fight until they win or until they physically cannot continue. They adapt faster than any species we've ever encountered. They treat warfare like problem solving. Every time we developed a new strategy, they countered it within hours. Every weakness we tried to exploit, they turned into a trap. But their technology was inferior, Kosovara insisted. Yes, and they knew it. So they didn't fight us with technology. They fought us with creativity and pure, stubborn determination. They used asteroids as weapons. They hacked our communication systems. They even built fake ships out of debris to confuse our sensors. Krevith's voice was bitter. We were fighting them with honor and established tactics. They were fighting to survive by any means necessary. There is no contest between those two approaches. The room fell silent. Kosovara looked back at the hologram, watching the human colony ship finally escape through a damaged jump gate, leaving behind 3 destroyed fleets and an empire too humiliated to admit what had happened. Why was this classified? He asked. Because the Emperor at the time couldn't afford to admit defeat, Thesepak answered. Couldn't admit that the mighty Calvarian Empire had been beaten by unknown aliens with primitive technology. So he classified everything, declared that sector of space forbidden, erased the incident from all public records. Only command officers were allowed to know the truth, and we forgot about them. Kosovara said quietly. We assumed they would stay in their own space, that we would never see them again. Yes, Thesepak confirmed. We forgot about the humans, but apparently they didn't forget about us. Kosovara turned to his advisors. Current estimates. If that colony ship from 3 centuries ago was that dangerous with primitive technology, what kind of capabilities does the ship we detected today possess? The head of military analysis, a female named Kesira, brought up new projections. Admiral, if we assume standard technological progression, the humans should now be several generations ahead of where they were. But based on the energy readings from this vessel, they're not just ahead. They've made leaps that we can't explain. Their power generation alone suggests they've discovered physics principles we don't understand. Weapons capabilities? Unknown. The ship shows no obvious weapon ports, which could mean their weapons are internal and deployable. Or it could mean the entire ship is a weapon. We don't have enough data. Kosovara felt the weight of command settling on his shoulders. What are our options? Krevith spoke up. With respect, Admiral, we have only one option. Destroy that ship before it can report back to Earth. If they're here to scout for an invasion, we need to stop them now. And if it's not a military vessel? Someone asked. Then we've made first contact by destroying their ship, another advisor said. That could mean war. We are already at war, Krevith insisted. We've been at war since 300 years ago. This is just the next phase. If we don't strike first, they will. Kosovara looked around the room. Fear. He saw fear in every face. Fear of the unknown. Fear of history repeating. Fear of an enemy that had beaten them once before with nothing but determination and ingenuity. Mobilize the 7th Armada, he ordered finally. 200 ships? Full battle readiness. We intercept that vessel before it gets any closer to our core systems. And our orders regarding engagement? Kesira asked. Kosovara stared at the hologram showing the old colony ship still fighting against impossible odds. He thought about Jinwu holding a corridor for 3 days. He thought about humans who refused to surrender. He thought about what 300 years might have done to a species like that. Destroy it on sight, he said. Give them no chance to fight back. No warnings. No communication. We hit them with everything we have, and we don't stop until that ship is dust. He prayed to the old gods that it would be enough. Captain Hune stretched in his chair and smiled at the view on the main display. The nebula ahead glowed with purple and gold light, clouds of gas and dust stretching across thousands of kilometers. After 3 months in deep space, the sight never got old. Beautiful, isn't it? Minji said from the engineering station. She was monitoring the ship's new jump drive, making sure all systems stayed stable. Beautiful and scientifically interesting, Yuna added from her position at the science console. The young woman's eyes sparkled with excitement. The radiation patterns are unlike anything we've seen before. If I'm reading this correctly, there might be exotic matter formations inside the nebula. Hyun nodded. This was what the Prometheus Dawn had been built for. Exploration, discovery. Humanity had finally developed technology that could reach the stars, and now they were out here, charting new systems and making first contact with whatever they might find. How long until we reach the nebula? He asked. At current speed, about 6 hours, Minji replied. The new drive is performing perfectly. We're making better time than expected. Hyun felt proud of his ship and crew. The Prometheus Dawn was humanity's newest exploration vessel, equipped with experimental technology that would have seemed like magic just a generation ago. The jump drive could fold space without using traditional gates. The shields could protect them from radiation and micrometeorites. The sensors could detect objects light years away, and his crew was the best Earth could offer. Yuna was a brilliant scientist who had published 3 papers before her 25th birthday. Minji was an engineering genius who had helped design the ship's core systems. Doyen, his communications officer, could speak 7 languages and had trained specifically for first contact scenarios. Taeyang, the weapons officer, was former military, but had eagerly joined the peaceful exploration program. Jisoo, their medical officer, had treated more alien biology simulations than anyone else in the service. They were ready for anything. Or so Hyun thought. Captain, I'm picking up something odd, Doyen said suddenly, frowning at his console. The young man touched several controls, adjusting frequencies. There's a lot of electromagnetic activity in this sector. More than there should be. Natural phenomenon? Hyun asked. I don't think so. It has structure, patterns. It's too organized to be random. Doyen worked for another minute, then looked up with excitement. Captain, I think these are alien transmissions. We might not be alone out here. The bridge fell silent. Then everyone started talking at once. First contact, Yuna exclaimed. About time, Minji grinned. We've been exploring for months and haven't seen anything but empty systems. Hyun felt his heart race. This was the moment they had all hoped for. The moment humanity had dreamed about for centuries. Contact with another intelligent species. Doyen, can you locate the source? He asked, forcing himself to remain calm and professional. Working on it, sir. The signals are coming from multiple points. I think there's a network of stations or ships spread throughout this sector. They're using a communication protocol I don't recognize, but I might be able to decode it given time. Don't decode their private communications, Hyun ordered. That would be rude. Can you broadcast a first contact message? Yes, sir. Standard protocols? Standard protocols. All languages, all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace. Doyen nodded and began preparing the message. Hyun turned to Taeyang at the weapons station. Power down all weapon systems. I want to make it clear we're not a threat. Taeyang looked uncertain. Sir, if they're hostile, then we'll run. But we're not going into first contact with guns pointed at them. That's not who we are. Yes, sir. Taeyang began shutting down the ship's defensive lasers and missile systems. Hyun turned to Jisoo at the medical station. Doctor, start reviewing xenobiology protocols. We might need them soon. Jisoo nodded, pulling up files on her display. Should I prepare a quarantine section? Good idea. Just in case. Message ready, Captain, Doyen reported. Broadcasting now on all frequencies. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. Seconds turned to minutes. The alien transmissions continued, but there was no response to their message. Try again, Hyun ordered. Maybe they didn't receive it. Doyen broadcast the message again. And again. And still no response. This is strange, Yuna said, studying her sensor data. I'm detecting a lot of energy signatures out there, a lot. Whatever these aliens have, they've got a big presence in this sector. How big? Hyun asked. At least 20 distinct energy sources. Maybe more. They're hard to scan clearly. And Captain, Yuna's voice became worried. They're all moving. Converging on a single point. What point? Yuna looked up at him, her face pale. Us, they're all moving toward us. Yun felt ice form in his stomach. Doyun, are you sure the message was clear? Did we say we come in peace? Yes, sir. Absolutely clear. I sent it in every format we have. Mathematical patterns, pictograms, even basic audio. There's no way they could misunderstand. Then why are they converging on us? Nobody had an answer. Minji, how fast can we jump out of here if we need to? Hyun asked. The engineer checked her systems. The drive needs 15 minutes to charge for a jump. We used it an hour ago to get here. 15 minutes. Hyun looked at the sensor display showing all those energy signatures moving toward them. How long did they have? Captain, I'm picking up more signals, Doyun said. These ones are in a different format, older. Wait. He worked frantically at his console. Sir, I managed to decode a fragment. It's a language code from 300 years ago. Early interstellar era. But why would they be using, what does it say? Hyun demanded. Doyun's face went white. It says, Terrans, they keep saying Terrans, and mobilize, attack, destroy. He looked up at Hyun. Captain, I think they're planning to attack us. That doesn't make sense, Yuna protested. We just got here. We haven't done anything. Why would they attack? Sungho, get up here, Hyun called into the ship's intercom. I need your AI skills now. The AI specialist arrived on the bridge within seconds, out of breath from running. Sungho was young and brilliant, one of the best programmers Earth had ever produced. Captain? Help Doyun crack those alien communications. I need to know what's happening out there and why they think we're a threat. Sungho slid into a console next to Doyun, and both men began working. Their fingers flew over the controls, running programs and analyzing data streams. Got something, Sungho said after 5 minutes. It's military communication. Very structured. They're coordinating a fleet movement. Admiral, battle formation, weapons charging. They are going to attack, Doyun said in disbelief. They're mobilizing their military against us, but why? Minji asked. We haven't done anything. Captain, there's something else, Sungho said, his voice shaking. I found references to historical files in their system. Something about a war. 300 years ago? Between the Calvarian Empire and... He stopped. And who? Hyun pressed. And Earth? Captain, I think we were here before. I think humans fought these people 3 centuries ago. The bridge fell into stunned silence. That's impossible, Hyun said. We don't have any records of that. Our early colony missions all returned safely. There was never a war. Maybe one didn't return, Yuna suggested quietly. Maybe one of those old colony ships ran into these people and had to fight them. Hyun's mind raced. If that was true, if humans had fought the Calvarian Empire 300 years ago, then these people weren't looking at the Prometheus Dawn as a peaceful explorer. They were seeing it as a weapon, as a threat. How many ships are coming? He asked. Yuna checked her sensors. At least 50, no wait. More signatures appearing. 100. 200. She looked up at him with fear in her eyes. Captain, they're sending an entire armada. Just for us, Hyun made a decision. Doyun broadcast on every frequency. Tell them we are not military. Tell them we didn't know about any past conflict. Tell them we just want to talk. Broadcasting now, sir. But even as the message went out, Hyun watched the sensor display. 200 ships, an entire armada, coming to destroy his small exploration vessel and his crew of scientists, and they had 15 minutes before they could jump away. He looked around at his crew. Young faces, bright minds, people who had signed up to explore the universe, not fight wars. Taeyang, he said quietly, bring weapon systems back online. Admiral Kosovara stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship, Destruction's Edge, and watched his armada assemble. 200 warships, the pride of the Calvarian 7th Fleet, arranged in perfect attack formation. The largest military mobilization in decades, all focused on a single target. The human ship hung in space ahead of them, seemingly unaware of the doom approaching. Or perhaps they knew and simply didn't care. Kosovara wasn't sure which possibility frightened him more. Status report, he commanded. All ships in position, his tactical officer replied. Weapons charged and locked on target. Shields at maximum. The human vessel is still broadcasting their peace messages. Kosovara listened to the transmission playing through his console. Strange sounds, mathematical patterns, images showing aliens that looked oddly fragile. 2 legs, 2 arms, no scales or natural armor. They seemed harmless. Weak even, but Kosovara had read the historical files. He knew better. Do not be fooled by their appearance, he said to his bridge crew. 300 years ago, our ancestors made that mistake. These creatures are dangerous beyond measure. Sir, they've powered down their weapons, another officer reported. Their defensive systems are at minimum power. A trick, Kosovara said immediately. They want us to think they're peaceful. To lower our guard. Then they'll strike when we're vulnerable. He pulled up the tactical display, studying the human ship. It was larger than his flagship, which was concerning. The energy readings were still off the scale. And despite their broadcasts about peace, Kosovara could see the truth. This was a warship, had to be. No peaceful exploration vessel would be this powerful. They're testing us, he said, seeing how we respond. Gathering data for their invasion fleet. Should we open communications? His diplomatic officer asked hesitantly. Perhaps we should at least try to talk to them. No, Kosovara said flatly. Communication is what they want. Time to study us, analyze our weaknesses, relay information back to Earth. We will not give them that opportunity. He activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Admiral Kosovara. In exactly 5 minutes, we will commence firing. Concentrated bombardment on the target vessel. Do not stop until it is completely destroyed. No survivors. No wreckage large enough to contain working technology. We will erase this ship from existence. Acknowledgements flooded in from 200 captains. Kosovara watched the countdown timer begin. 5 minutes until they saved the Empire. On the Prometheus dawn, Captain Hyun stared at the impossible numbers on his display. 200 ships, he said quietly. They're really sending 200 ships to attack us. Maybe it's not an attack? Jisoo suggested hopefully. Maybe it's just a show of force? A way to intimidate us into leaving. They're charging weapons, Taeyang reported grimly. Every single ship. All weapons. All pointed at us. Captain, that much firepower. He didn't finish the sentence. Hyun understood. That much firepower could destroy a planet. And it was all aimed at his single ship. 12 minutes until jump drive is ready, Minji said, her voice tight with stress. Can we last 12 minutes? We'd better, Hyun replied. Because there's nowhere to hide out here. Sungho was still working with Doyun, frantically trying to crack more of the alien communications. I've got more historical data, he reported. Captain, the war 300 years ago was bad. Really bad. The Empire sent 3 entire fleets after 1 human colony ship. Lost all 3 fleets. The humans escaped, but the Empire never forgot. So they see us as invaders, Hyun said, finally understanding. They think we're here for revenge. Or to finish what that colony ship started, Yuna added. Captain, from their perspective, we're the dangerous ones. We're the threat. Hyun felt the weight of that realization. Somewhere in the past, some brave humans on a colony ship had fought against impossible odds and won. They had become legends to an entire alien empire, and now that empire looked at the Prometheus dawn and saw those same humans, advanced and powerful after 3 centuries. No wonder they were terrified. Doyun, send another message, Hyun ordered. Tell them we know about the war. Tell them we're not here for revenge. Tell them we just want peace. Sending now, sir. But Hyun could see the alien ships moving into final attack positions. They weren't going to listen. They were too afraid. Captain, we need to prepare for combat, Taeyang said firmly. I know we're not a warship, but we have defensive systems. The shields can take some punishment. The point defense lasers can shoot down missiles. If we're going to survive 12 minutes, we need to use everything we have. Hyun looked around at his crew. Scientists, engineers, explorers. People who had never been in a real battle. Bring all defensive systems online, he ordered. Full shields. Active point defense. Minji, divert every spare bit of power to protection. On it, Minji said, her fingers dancing across her console. But Captain, if they all fire at once, I don't know if even our shields can handle it. We'll find out, Hyun said grimly. Taeyang, do we have any offensive capability? The debris clearance lasers, Taeyang replied. They're meant for shooting asteroids and space junk, but in theory they could damage enemy ships. And we have the emergency kinetic impactors. They're really just chunks of dense metal we can fire at high speed. Again, meant for emergency situations, not combat. Better than nothing, Hyun said. Prepare them, but don't fire unless I give the order. I want to make it clear we're defending ourselves, not attacking. 11 minutes, Minji announced. Admiral Kosovara watched the timer count down. 3 minutes until the attack. The human ship was still broadcasting peace messages, still claiming they meant no harm. He almost wanted to believe them. Almost. Sir, we're receiving new transmissions from the target, his communications officer said. They're saying they know about the old war. They claim they're not here for revenge. Of course they'd say that, Kosovara replied. What else would they say? That they're here to destroy us? Lies are easy. But sir, what if they're telling the truth? What if this really is just an exploration vessel? Kosovara turned to face his officer. Then we will have started a war. But if they're lying, if this is a military scout ship and we do nothing, then we've doomed the Empire. I choose to protect our people. I choose to assume the worst. 1 minute, the tactical officer announced. Kosovara took a deep breath. All ships, final weapons check. Prepare to fire on my mark. Captain, they're about to fire, Sung-ho said, monitoring the alien communications. I'm reading final attack orders. 20 seconds, Hyun gripped his chair. All crew brace for impact. Shields to maximum. Minji, I hope your engineering is as good as you think it is. So do I, Minji replied, watching her power distribution systems carefully. Shields at 120%. I'm borrowing power from life support and secondary systems. 10 seconds. Sung-ho counted down. 9-8, Yuna grabbed her console. Jisoo whispered a prayer. Doyen kept broadcasting peace messages even though he knew nobody was listening. 3, 2, 1. The universe exploded into light. 200 ships opened fire simultaneously. Energy beams, missiles, plasma bolts, kinetic projectiles. Enough firepower to glass a continent, all focused on the Prometheus dawn. The ship's shields flared brilliant blue, absorbing the initial impact. The bridge shook violently. Consoles sparked. Lights flickered. Shields holding, Minji shouted over the noise. But they're draining fast. 90%. 85%. Return fire, Kosovara commanded. Keep firing. Don't give them a chance to recover. The armada poured destruction onto the human ship. Wave after wave of weapons fire. The void lit up like a star had been born. Shields at 70%, Minji reported. 60%. Captain, we can't take this for long. Hyun made a decision he never wanted to make. Taeyang, target their weapon systems. I don't want to kill anyone, but we need to stop them from firing. Use the debris clearance lasers. Minimum power. Just enough to disable their weapons. Yes, sir, Taeyang said, and began targeting solutions. The Prometheus Dawn's lasers, designed to cut through asteroids and clear navigation hazards, activated. Precise beams of concentrated energy, guided by AI-assisted targeting that could track thousands of debris particles simultaneously. They were only meant to destroy rocks, but they worked just as well on alien warships. The first beam struck a Calvarian cruiser's forward weapons array. The precise cut severed power conduits and destroyed targeting sensors. The ship went dark, its weapons offline. The second beam hit another ship. The third. The fourth Taeyang worked methodically, his targeting system predicting enemy positions with frightening accuracy. Every shot hit exactly where he aimed. Every shot disabled a ship without destroying it completely. What? Admiral Kosovara stared in horror at his tactical display. His ships were going dark. One by one, with surgical precision, the human vessel was neutralizing his fleet. Sir, the enemy weapons are incredibly precise, his tactical officer reported in shock. They're not trying to destroy us. They're disabling weapon systems only. Our crews are alive, but the ships are combat ineffective. 30 ships disabled, 40, 50, all ships evasive maneuvers. Kosovara ordered desperately.
Don't let them target you!
But it didn't matter. The human targeting system adapted to every evasion, predicted every movement. It was like fighting an enemy that could see the future. Shields at 40%, Minji reported. But we're managing. The debris cleared. The battle lasted 15 minutes. To Admiral Kosovara, it felt like 15 hours. He watched his proud armada, 200 of the Empire's finest warships, reduced to floating hulks. Not destroyed, which somehow made it worse. The human ship could have killed them all. Instead, it had systematically disabled every vessel with clinical precision. 123 ships were now drifting in space, weapons offline, crews unharmed but helpless. The remaining ships had stopped firing. What was the point? Every shot they fired was absorbed by shields that seemed impossible to damage. Every attempt to target the human vessel was countered by evasive maneuvers that made their warship move like a fighter craft. And through it all, the humans kept broadcasting the same message. We don't want war. Please stop firing. We mean you no harm. Kosovara slumped in his command chair, staring at the tactical display. His flagship was still operational, but barely. The humans had spared it until last, and when they finally targeted it, they had been so precise that they disabled only the weapon systems. Life support, engines, sensors all still worked. They could see everything. Do nothing, Admiral, his communications officer said quietly. The humans are hailing us. They want to talk. Kosvara almost laughed. Now they wanted to talk. After destroying the Empire's pride, after proving that 300 years had turned them into something unstoppable. Put them through, he said tiredly. The display flickered and showed the interior of the human bridge. A male figure sat in the center chair wearing a dark blue uniform. He looked young. Humans always looked young to Calvarian eyes, but his expression was serious, almost sad. I am Captain Hyun of the Earth vessel Prometheus Dawn, the human said in perfect Calvarian. Are you in command of this fleet? Admiral Kosovara, he replied. I command what remains of it, yes. Admiral, I need you to understand something. We did not come here to fight. We didn't even know about the war 300 years ago. Our records don't mention it. That colony ship that fought your empire never made it back to Earth. We thought they were lost in space. We had no idea they encountered your people. Kosovara studied the human's face, looking for signs of deception. He found none. Just genuine regret? You expect me to believe that? He asked. Your vessel is the most powerful warship I've ever seen. You destroyed my fleet in minutes. We're not a warship, Captain Hyun said and gestured around his bridge. Look at my crew, scientists, engineers, explorers. This ship was built to study nebulas and chart star systems. Everything you saw was defensive systems and tools meant for peaceful purposes. Peaceful purposes don't disable 100 warships, Kosovara said bitterly. The shields are meant to protect us from radiation and cosmic debris, Hyun explained. The lasers you saw are for clearing navigation hazards, asteroids, space junk. The targeting system was designed to track thousands of small objects simultaneously. We needed that precision for our mission. He paused. We never thought we'd use any of it in combat. On the Prometheus Dawn bridge, Minji leaned close to Hyun and whispered, The jump drive is ready. We can leave any time. Hyun shook his head slightly. If they ran now, the Empire would see it as a retreat before a larger attack. They'd spend the next decades preparing for an invasion that would never come. Better to stay and try to explain. Admiral, can I show you something? Hyun asked. Without waiting for an answer, he nodded to Doyun, who brought up images on the shared display. Pictures appeared. Humans on Earth living in cities that gleamed with technology. Humans on Mars terraforming the red planet. Humans throughout their solar system, building stations and habitats, and beyond other ships like the Prometheus Dawn exploring new stars. This is humanity, Hyun said. We spent 3 centuries expanding, learning, growing. We developed new technology because we wanted to reach the stars. We built ships like this one because we wanted to explore the universe. We created powerful systems because space is dangerous and we needed to protect our people. But Admiral, he looked directly at the camera. We never built any of it for war. We're not warriors. We're explorers. Kosovara looked at the images. So much technology, so much power. All of it focused on peaceful expansion. The colony ship that fought you 300 years ago, Hyun continued, they were brave people trying to survive. You attacked them without warning. You tried to capture or kill them. They fought back because they had no choice. They won because humans are very, very stubborn when our lives are threatened. But they never wanted that fight. And now you've returned, Kosovara said. More powerful. More advanced. What are we supposed to think? That we're curious, Hyun replied simply. We came to this sector because our sensors detected interesting radiation patterns from the nebula ahead. We wanted to study it. We had no idea you were here. No idea about the history. He gestured to his crew. Look at their faces, Admiral. Do they look like conquerors? We're just as shocked by all this as you are. Sungho spoke up from his station. Admiral Kosovara, I've been analyzing your communication protocols. Your technology is sophisticated but fundamentally different from ours. We developed along completely separate paths. If we had known about you, If there had been any contact in 300 years, our technology would show similarities. But it doesn't. That proves we've been isolated from you. Proves we're telling the truth. Kasavara considered this. The logic was sound. The technology in the human ship was unlike anything in Calvarian design. If Earth had been preparing for war against the Empire, they would have studied Calvarian systems and incorporated countermeasures. Instead, everything looked completely alien. Independent development. What do you want from us? He asked finally. Nothing, Yun said, except maybe to start over. Forget the past. Humans don't hold grudges against you for what happened 300 years ago. We didn't even know about it until today. We'd like to make friends, trade knowledge, learn about each other. But if you want us to leave and never come back, we'll do that too. It's your choice. Admiral Kosavara looked around his disabled flagship. His defeated fleet, the Empire's pride, shattered by what was essentially a civilian research vessel. If the humans wanted to invade, they could. If they wanted to destroy the Empire, nothing could stop them. But they didn't want that. They wanted to be friends. I need to contact my government, he said carefully. This is beyond my authority to decide. We understand, Yun replied. We'll wait. And Admiral, we're sorry about your ships. If you give us time, maybe our engineer can help repair them. Minji is very good with technology. Minji waved awkwardly at the screen. I've been studying your power systems through our scans. I think I can see the problem. It would take a few hours per ship, but we could probably fix most of them. Kosavara stared. The humans had disabled his fleet, and now they were offering to repair it. It was insane. It was impossible. It was exactly what someone who genuinely wanted peace would do. I'll consult with my superiors, he said. The connection ended. Kosavara sat in silence for a long moment, then activated his emergency channel to Imperial High Command. This is Admiral Kosavara. I need to speak with the Emperor immediately. It's about the Terrans. He paused, trying to find the right words. They're not what we thought. We need to negotiate. We need to make peace, and we need to do it before they realize just how powerful they've become. On the Prometheus dawn, Hyun let out a long breath. That went better than expected, Yuna said. We're not done yet, Hyun replied. But it's a start. Doyun, prepare a detailed report for Earth. The Council needs to know everything that happened here. Already working on it, sir, Doyun said. Taeyang spoke up from his station. Captain, should I keep the weapons armed? No, Hyun said immediately. Power everything down. Back to minimal defensive status. I want to show good faith. Sir, what if they attack again? They won't, Hyun said, watching the disabled fleet on his sensors. They're scared. They think we're dangerous. The last thing we should do is act dangerous. Minji brought up engineering displays. If we're really going to help repair their ships, I should start analyzing their systems in detail. This is fascinating technology. Different principles, but elegant in its own way. Do it, Hyun approved. And prepare a cultural package for Earth. Information about the Calvarian Empire, their language, their history. We're going to need diplomats out here, and they'll need to know what they're dealing with. Jisoo, who had been quiet through the entire battle, finally spoke. Captain, do you think we can really make peace with them? After what happened? Hyun looked at his crew. Young faces, bright minds, people who had just survived their first combat without losing their idealism. I think we have to try, he said. Because if we don't, if we let fear and old grudges control us, then we're no better than the Empire that attacked that colony ship 300 years ago. Humans have always been better than that. We explore, we learn, we reach out. That's who we are. He stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, unaware that they'd just made first contact with an alien empire, unaware that their exploration vessel had won a battle against 200 warships, unaware that humanity had become one of the...
The council chamber floated in space like a crystal flower, its walls made of transparent metal that showed the stars beyond. Inside, representatives from 43 different species sat in a great circle. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had scales, others fur or feathers. They came in every color and shape the galaxy could create. Ambassador Jae-sung Kim sat in the observer section, quiet as always. He was human, though no one in the chamber knew what that really meant. To them, he was just another rare species, unusual but not special. His people had made sure of it. High Counselor Vex Thor stood at the center of the chamber. He was tall and covered in dark green scales that caught the starlight. His people, the Vex, had led the Galactic Council for 200 years. He was proud of that fact. "My friends," Vex Thor said, his voice deep and confident, "we celebrate 300 years of peace today. 300 years since the last Great War. Our civilization has never been stronger." The council members made sounds of approval. Some clapped with hands, others with tentacles, and some clicked mandibles together. "We owe much to those who came before us." Vex Thor continued. "The ancient records speak of the builders, the ones who created the hyperspace gates that connect our worlds. Without those gates, we would still be alone on our separate planets, never knowing the others existed." Scholar Minji Park sat next to Jae Sung. She was also human, also hidden in plain sight. She had spent 50 years studying in the Council's great libraries, reading everything they knew about the galaxy's history. "They still think we're myths," she whispered to Jae Sung in Korean, their secret language that no translator could understand. "That was the plan," Jae Sung whispered back. Vex Thor continued his speech. "The legends say the builders were warriors without equal, that they could survive anything, that they created wonders with their hands and their minds." He laughed, and many council members laughed with him. "But we are scientists now. We know these were just stories. The gates were probably built by an ancient civilization that died out long ago. The myths made them more than they were." A junior counselor from the Moth People raised a delicate wing. "High Counselor, some records suggest the builders might still exist, that they simply left." Left?" Vex Thor's laugh was louder now. "Left the greatest creation in the galaxy? No, my friend. Dead civilizations leave ruins. That is what we have found. Nothing more." Commander Junho Lee sat 3 seats away from Jae Sung. He wore the simple uniform of a military observer. His face showed nothing, but his hand rested on his communication device. He was ready, as always, to send the signal home if needed. The celebration continued for another hour. Representatives shared food and stories. They talked about trade agreements and cultural exchanges. They were proud of what they had built together. Then the alarm sounded. It was not loud, but it cut through every conversation. The chamber's walls shifted from transparent to opaque, and a massive holographic display appeared in the center. "High Counselor," the communications officer said, her voice shaking. "We have a priority emergency signal from Rim Station 12. "Show us," Vex Thor commanded. The hologram flickered to life. It showed a military officer of the Claw People. His fur was burned, and his station was falling apart around him. "This is Commander Tresh of Rim Station 12. We are under attack by unknown hostile forces. They came out of dark space. Thousands of ships. They're not ships. They're alive. They eat everything. Planets, ships, us." The hologram showed the view outside the station. The stars were disappearing, swallowed by darkness. But it wasn't empty darkness. It moved. It pulsed. And it was full of shapes like terrible fish swimming through nothing. "How many?" Vex Thor demanded. "We counted 50,000 before our scanners failed," Commander Tresh said. "They've already consumed 12 systems in the outer rim. Nothing stops them. They just keep eating. They don't communicate. They don't negotiate." The hologram cut to static. The chamber fell silent. 43 species, who moments ago were celebrating peace, now faced something none of them understood. "Mobilize the defense fleet," Vex Thor ordered. "Every ship, every world." The military coordinator, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke up. "High Counselor, our combined fleet numbers 400 ships. If their count of 50,000 is accurate, I know the numbers." Vex Thor's roar echoed through the chamber. "Do it anyway. We have no choice." Panic spread through the council. Representatives called their homeworlds. Military officers ran to their posts. The celebration turned to chaos in moments. The Moth People representative spoke again, her voice small. Perhaps we should try to find the builders. If the legends are true, the builders are dead! Vex Thor shouted. We face this with what we have. We are not children believing in fairy tales. Jae-sung and Minji exchanged a look. Junho's hand tightened on his communication device. Not yet, Jae-sung said quietly in Korean. We need to be sure. Over the next 6 hours, the reports came in. The enemy fleet was moving faster than anything the council had seen. Their ships, if they could be called ships, seemed to be alive. They consumed everything in their path. They broke apart planets and ate the pieces. They absorbed energy weapons. They multiplied. The Council's defense fleet engaged them at the 7th Rim. The battle lasted 40 minutes. 320 Council ships were destroyed. They killed perhaps 100 of the enemy. The math was simple and terrible. Vex Thor sat alone at the center of the now empty chamber. His scales had lost their shine. His proud bearing was gone. Jae-sung approached him slowly. High Counselor. Go away, Observer, Vex Thor said. I must decide how to tell 43 worlds that they are going to die. It doesn't have to end that way, Jae-sung said. Vex Thor looked up at him. Do you have a secret fleet hidden somewhere? Can your people multiply ships from nothing? No, Jae-sung said. But I know someone who can help. Myths and legends will not save us now. Jae-sung pulled out his communication device. It looked like any other council technology, but when he activated it, strange symbols appeared. Symbols in a language no council computer could read. What if I told you the builders are not dead? Jae-sung said. What if I told you they've been watching, waiting to see if you could govern yourselves? What if I told you that they're ready to help? But first, you need to believe. Vex Thor stared at the human. Really looked at him for the first time in the 50 years Jae-sung had served as an observer. Who are you? The High Counselor whispered. Jae-sung smiled sadly. I am human. My people built the gates you use. We gave you the stars. And now, if you'll accept our help, we'll give you something else. What? A chance. Jae-sung pressed a button on his device. The message was simple, just 2 words in Korean. They're ready. High above the council world, in the space between dimensions where no scanner could reach, Admiral Sujin Choi received the message. She looked out at the fleet that surrounded her command ship. 10,000 dreadnoughts. Each one a floating city. Each one carrying enough firepower to crack a world. All ships, she broadcast. Prepare for emergence. It's time to introduce ourselves. The observation station floated in the space between galaxies, where the stars were just distant smudges of light. From here, humanity watched. From here, they had always watched. Admiral Sujin Choi stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Eternal Vigil. Through the massive windows, she could see the fleet. 10,000 dreadnoughts, arranged in perfect geometric patterns. Each ship was 3 kilometers long. Each carried a crew of 5,000. Each had enough power to fight a small war alone. Admiral, we have confirmation from Ambassador Kim, her communications officer reported. The Council is under attack by the Devourers. Estimated enemy strength is 50,000 bioships. Council defense fleet has been reduced to 80 ships. Sujin closed her eyes. She had known this day would come. They all had. For 500 years, humanity had prepared for the moment when the younger species would need them. Connect me to Earth, she said. Presidential priority. The hologram shimmered to life. President Hyun-woo Park appeared, sitting in his office deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. Behind him, through another window, Earth rotated slowly. The homeworld, the place humanity had almost destroyed once, and had spent 1,000 years learning to protect. "Admiral," Hyunwoo said. "I've read the reports. The council is falling." "Yes, sir." "Ambassador Kim has made first contact. He's revealed his identity to High Counselor Vex Thor. The council needs to know we're real before we appear, or they'll think we're another invasion." Hyunwoo was quiet for a moment. He was old, even by human standards. He had lived for 200 years. Thanks to medical technology, the council didn't know existed yet. He had been a child when humanity made the decision to hide and watch. "Dr. Kim," Hyunwoo said to someone off-screen. "Your assessment?" Dr. Young-hee Kim appeared in the hologram. She was the chief scientist of the observation network. She had spent her entire life studying the council species from afar. "The council species are good people," Young-hee said. "In 500 years, they've had only 2 small wars. They've shared resources fairly. They've protected the weak. They've done better than we did at their level of development. But they're not ready for the devourers. They don't have the technology or the experience." "And if we reveal ourselves?" Hyunwoo asked. "Some will be grateful. Some will be angry that we hid. Some will fear us. But they'll live to feel those things. If we don't reveal ourselves, they'll all die. The devourers don't negotiate. They don't stop. They're a force of nature." Hyunwoo turned back to Sujin. "Admiral, what's your tactical assessment? 10,000 dreadnoughts against 50,000 bioships. Normally, I'd say we're outnumbered. But the devourers are predictable. They attack in straight lines. They rely on numbers, not strategy. We'll take losses, but we can win. The real question is what comes after." "After?" Hyunwoo asked. "After they know we exist. After they realize we've been watching them for 5 centuries. After they understand that we're the builders from their legends. Some will see us as saviors. Others will see us as manipulators. The galaxy will never be the same." Hyunwoo stood and walked to his window. He looked at Earth for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with the weight of responsibility. 500 years ago, our ancestors built the hyperspace gates and gave them to the galaxy. They did it anonymously because humanity had just barely survived our own wars. We were broken. We were ashamed. We wanted to give something good to the universe, but we didn't trust ourselves to rule it. He turned back to the hologram. "We've spent 5 centuries healing, learning, watching the council species grow and thrive using the tools we gave them. We hoped they would never need us. But hope is not a strategy." "No, sir," Sujin agreed. "The council species are our neighbors," Hyunwoo continued. "We gave them the gates because neighbors help neighbors. Now, they need a different kind of help. Admiral Choi, you are authorized to reveal the fleet. Save them. And then we'll see if we've learned enough to be trusted with power." "Yes, Mr. President." The hologram faded. Sujin turned to her bridge crew. They were the best humanity had to offer. Engineers, pilots, tacticians, strategists. They had trained their entire lives for a war they hoped would never come. "All hands, this is the Admiral," she broadcast to the entire fleet. "For 500 years, we have watched. We have waited. We have prepared. Today, that wait ends. The Galactic Council is under attack by an enemy they cannot defeat alone. We are going to help them. We are going to reveal ourselves. And we are going to show the galaxy what humanity stands for." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Some of you were born on Earth. Some on Mars or Europa or Titan. Some of you have never seen the Council worlds. But you have all studied them. You know their cultures. You know their languages. You know their dreams. Today, we fight for those dreams. Not because we rule them. Not because we own them. But because they're our neighbors. And that's what neighbors do." Throughout the fleet, 10,000 ships hummed to life. Reactors that had been in standby mode for decades began to glow. Weapons systems that had never been fired in anger came online. Fighter bays opened, revealing millions of small craft. Navigation. Sujin ordered. Plot a course to Council space. Multiple emergence points. I want every Council homeworld protected the moment we arrive. Aye, Admiral, course plotted. We can be in position in 72 hours. Make it 60, Sujin said. The Devourers won't wait for us to be ready. The fleet began to move. In the space between galaxies, 10,000 points of light accelerated to speeds that bent reality around them. They weren't using normal hyperspace. That was Council technology, given to them by humanity centuries ago. This was something deeper. Quantum folding. Direct manipulation of space-time. Technology that the Council wouldn't develop for another 1,000 years. On the eternal vigil, Sujin walked to the memorial wall. It showed the names of every human who had died in the last Great War. 1,000 years ago. Billions of names. The war that had almost destroyed Earth. The war that taught humanity what it truly meant to be powerful. We learned, she whispered to the names. We learned that power without wisdom is just destruction. We learned that strength without compassion is just cruelty. We learned that winning alone means nothing if your neighbors lose. I hope we learned enough. I hope we're ready. Her second in command, Captain Min-Sok Park, joined her at the memorial. He was young, only 100 years old. He had never known the old Earth, the broken one. He only knew the humanity that gave, instead of took. Do you think they'll understand why we hid? He asked. I don't know, Sujin admitted. Would you understand if someone more powerful than you had been watching your entire civilization and never said hello? I'd be angry. So would I. But anger is better than death, and death is what they face without us. The fleet traveled through the folded space for 3 days. During that time, reports came in from the Council worlds. The Devourers had reached the inner systems. Evacuations were underway. The last 80 ships of the Council fleet were making a final stand at the homeworld line, the defensive perimeter around the core worlds. They were losing. On the 3rd day, as the human fleet prepared to emerge into normal space, Sujin received a message from Jae-sung. It was simple. They know who we are now. They're ready. Or, as ready as they'll ever be. Sujin smiled. Ready or not, the galaxy was about to change forever. All ships, she broadcast. This is Admiral Choi. In 60 seconds, we emerge. The Council will see us. The Devourers will see us. The galaxy will see us. Show them what humanity has become. Show them why we waited. Show them that the builders are not dead. We are here. We are ready. And we are going to save our neighbors. She took a deep breath. 500 years of hiding. 500 years of watching. 500 years of waiting for this moment. Emerge. Reality tore open in 10,000 places at once. Above every Council homeworld, the sky split apart. And through those splits came the human fleet. Dreadnoughts so massive, they blotted out the sun. Ships that gleamed with strange metals and pulsed with impossible energy. Each one carried the same symbol on its hull. A blue world with a single white moon. Earth. The place where legends were born. The Council homeworld of Vexar Prime had never seen a sky like this. The planet rotated peacefully on its axis, its cities glowing in the afternoon sun. Then, without warning, the sky went dark. Not the darkness of night. This was different. The sun was still there, still shining, but something enormous blocked its light. Citizens looked up from their daily lives. Workers stopped in the streets. Children pointed at the sky, and what they saw would be carved into their species' memory forever. Reality was tearing, not like cloth, but like water being pushed aside. 10,000 points in the sky split open, revealing something beyond normal space. And through those splits came the ships. They were larger than anything the Council had ever built. Each one was a mountain of metal and energy, floating in defiance of everything they understood about physics. The ships arranged themselves in perfect defensive formations around the planet, moving with precision that seemed impossible for something so massive. On each hull, clear enough to see from the ground, was a symbol. A blue sphere, with a small white circle beside it. Nobody in the Council knew what it meant. Not yet. In the Council chamber, chaos ruled. The emergency session had been going for 2 days straight. Every representative was exhausted. Every world was evacuating. Every defense had failed. Then Ambassador Jae-sung Kim stood up from the observer section. "I request permission to address the Council," he said. High Counselor Vexthor was too tired to argue. "We don't have time for observers right now." "You have time for this," Jae-sung said, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I have information about the ships that just appeared in your skies." That got everyone's attention. The chamber fell silent. Jae-sung walked to the center of the room. He had been quiet for 50 years. Patient. Watching. Waiting for this moment. Now that it was here, he felt the weight of it. 500 years of human history. 500 years of secrecy. All about to end. "My name is Jae-sung Kim," he began. "I am human. My people are the ones you call the builders. We created the hyperspace gates 500 years ago. We did not die out. We did not leave. We have been watching. And now, with your permission, we would like to help." For 3 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then everyone started shouting at once. "Impossible. The builders are myths. This is a trick. Prove it." Vexthor raised his hand for silence. It took a long time. When the chamber finally quieted, he looked at Jae-sung with something between hope and anger. "If you are human," the High Counselor said, "if your people have been watching us for 5 centuries, why reveal yourselves now?" "Mani," end quote. "Because you need us now," Jae-sung said simply. "And because you've earned it." "Earned it?" Vexthor's scales darkened with anger. "You've been hiding while we built civilization? You've been watching like we're some kind of experiment?" "Not an experiment," Jae-sung said. "A hope. My people almost destroyed ourselves once. We built weapons that scarred our world. We fought wars that killed billions. We were powerful. But we were not wise. So when we finally learned to be better, we made a choice. We would give the galaxy the tools to connect, but we would not rule it. We would watch to see if others could build something better than we did." Scholar Minji Park stood up from the observer section. "I am also human. I have spent 50 years in your libraries. I have read your histories. You have done better than we did. In 500 years, you've had only 2 small wars. You've shared resources. You've protected the weak. You've built something beautiful." Commander Junho Lee stood next. "I am human. I have observed your military for 30 years. You fight only when necessary. You protect civilians. You follow rules of engagement. You are warriors with honor. My people respect that." Around the chamber, more observers stood. 10 of them. Then 20. Then 50. All humans. All hidden in plain sight for decades or centuries. Each one an ambassador that the Council never knew they had. Vexthor stared at them. His entire world was being rewritten. "How many of you are there?" 50 billion, Jae-sung said. "On Earth and Mars and Europa and Titan, and 100 colony worlds you've never seen. We've been here the whole time, just elsewhere." Before Vexar could respond, alarms blared through the chamber. A new hologram appeared. It showed the space above Vexar Prime. And it showed the Devourers arriving. The enemy fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a plague. Thousands of bioships, each one a twisted mass of organic technology. They moved like a school of predatory fish. all instinct and hunger. They saw the Council homeworld below and began to descend. Then they saw the human ships. The Devourers paused. In their simple minds, confusion registered. These new ships were large. These new ships radiated power. Were they prey or predator? On the bridge of the Eternal Vigil, Admiral Sujin Choi watched the Devourers hesitate. She knew it wouldn't last long. The Devourers were not smart, but they were determined. They would attack. They always attacked. All ships, this is Admiral Choi. She broadcast on an open channel that every Council world could hear. This is the Human Defense Fleet. We have arrived. To the people of the Galactic Council. We are the Builders. We gave you the stars 500 years ago. Today, we give you protection. To the Devourers, you have made a mistake. Adder, this is our neighborhood. These are our friends. And we do not allow bullies here. The Devourers attacked. They came in a wave. Thousands strong, expecting the human ships to break like the Council ships had broken. But the human dreadnoughts didn't move. They simply lit up. Weapons that the Council had never imagined tore through space. Beams of coherent energy. Missiles that thought for themselves. Railguns that fired projectiles at a fraction of light speed. Fighter craft poured from the dreadnoughts like angry insects. Millions of them. Each one piloted by a human who had trained their entire life for this moment. The Devourers died in their hundreds. Then, their thousands. The bioships that could shrug off Council weapons burned under human fire. The enemy that seemed unstoppable met something that refused to stop. On Vexar Prime, citizens watched the battle in the sky. They saw the human ships hold the line. They saw the Devourers being pushed back. For the first time in days, they felt something other than fear. Hope. In the Council chamber, representatives watched the same battle on holographic displays. They saw their legends made real. They saw the Builders return. Why? Vexthor asked Jae-sung quietly. Why did you really wait so long? Jae-sung looked at the High Counselor with sad eyes. Because we needed to know if we could be trusted. My people have incredible power. With that power, we nearly destroyed ourselves. We needed 500 years to learn wisdom. To learn restraint. To learn that power should serve, not rule. We gave you the gates to see if the galaxy could govern itself without us. You proved it could. We're not here to rule you, High Counselor. We're here to stand beside you. Above the planet, the battle raged. But something was wrong. For every 100 Devourers the humans destroyed, more appeared. They were coming through hyperspace faster than anyone expected. The enemy wasn't retreating. They were multiplying. On the Eternal Vigil, Sujin watched the tactical display with growing concern. Enemy reinforcements arriving. Current count: 70,000 bioships. Rate of arrival: 1,000 per hour. Her tactical officer spoke up. Admiral, at this rate, they'll overwhelm us through sheer numbers. We can win the battles, but we can't win the war, not unless we stop them at the source. Sujin nodded slowly. She had known this moment would come too. The decision every commander feared. The choice between victory and cost. Signal all ships, she said. Prepare for Protocol Omega. Captain Min Seok Park turned to her, his face pale. Admiral, that's never been tested in combat. The simulations showed. I know what the simulations showed. Sujin interrupted. But simulations don't account for 50,000 civilians dying every hour. Prepare the protocol. End quote. Unquote. I'm stated Manning. Throughout the human fleet, dreadnoughts began to change position. They were forming a pattern, linking together with beams of energy. They were building something big. On Vexar Prime, Vexthor watched this new formation. What are they doing? Jae-sung's face was grim. Something expensive. They're going to close the hyperspace corridor. Stop the Devourers from bringing reinforcements. But it will cost them. Jae Sung's face, or something. Jae Sung's face. Cost them what? Ships, lives, maybe hundreds of both. But if they don't do it, the devourers will never stop coming. Vex Thor looked at this human who had hidden among them for 50 years. This representative of a species that could have conquered the galaxy, but chose instead to watch and wait. Your people are dying to save us, Vex Thor said softly. Dying for neighbors you've never officially met. Yes, Jae Sung said. Because that's what neighbors do. The hyperspace corridor was like a river through reality. It connected the dark space beyond the galaxy to the council worlds. And through this river, the devourers poured endlessly. Admiral Sujin Choi stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil and watched her fleet transform. 2,000 dreadnoughts broke formation and accelerated toward the rim of council space, toward the corridor, toward the source of the invasion. Protocol Omega is ready, Admiral, her engineering chief reported. All participating ships have linked their reactors. We have a 92% chance of success. And the cost? Sujin asked, though she already knew the answer. We'll lose approximately 10% of the ships involved, maybe more. The energy feedback from collapsing the corridor is significant. 200 ships. 1,000 crew per ship. 200,000 people. Sujin closed her eyes for a moment. In the old days, before humanity learned wisdom, commanders made choices like this easily. Ships were numbers. Crew were statistics. Victory was everything. But humanity had changed. Every life mattered now. Every sacrifice was felt. Those ships, Sujin said quietly, their names will be remembered. Every single one. We'll carve them in memorial on Earth itself. They'll be taught in schools for 1,000 years. Yes, Admiral. She opened a channel to the 2,000 ships heading for the corridor. This is Admiral Choi. You know what you're about to do. You know the risks. Protocol. Omega has never been tested in combat. Some of you will not come back, but if you succeed, you'll save millions. Billions, maybe. The devourers will be cut off. The council worlds will survive. And the galaxy will know what humanity stands for. I'm proud of you. All of you. Good luck. The responses came back immediately. 2,000 captains, all saying the same thing. We're ready. The dreadnoughts accelerated to speeds that bent starlight around them. Behind them, the main fleet continued to fight. Above every council homeworld, human ships held the line against the devourers, and below, on those worlds, people watched their new protectors with wonder. On the planet Kreth, homeworld of the Claw people, Commander Junho Lee led a ground defense force. The devourers had landed bio-soldiers, horrible things that were part ship and part creature. They tore through anything in their path. Junho and his team of 50 Marines stood at the entrance to an evacuation center. Behind them, 10,000 Claw people, civilians, waited for transport, off-world. In front of them, a wave of devourer soldiers approached. Hold the line, Junho said calmly into his communicator. His armor gleamed white and blue, the colors of Earth's sky. His rifle was steady in his hands. Beside him, a young Claw warrior named Tresh gripped his own weapon with shaking paws. There are hundreds of them, Tresh said. We're only 50. Then we'll have to be better than we are many, Junho replied. The devourer soldiers charged. The humans opened fire. Council soldiers had seen human warriors before. During joint exercises, they thought they understood human combat ability. They were wrong. Those exercises had been gentle demonstrations, humans pulling their punches. Humans being careful not to damage council pride. This was different. This was humanity at war. Junho moved through the devourer soldiers like water flowing around rocks. His shots were perfectly placed. His movements were economical. He fought for 40 minutes without stopping, without slowing, without making a mistake. The other humans were the same. They covered each other instinctively. They reloaded in 3 seconds. They adapted to every new threat immediately. And they didn't retreat. Not one step. Tresh watched in amazement. His people were proud warriors. They trained from childhood. But this was something else. This was war as an art form. After 2 hours, the Devourers pulled back. The humans had held. Not one civilian behind them had been harmed. The evacuation continued. Tresh approached Jun-Ho, who was reloading his rifle for the 7th time. The human's armor was scorched and dented, but he moved like he had just started fighting. "How?" Tresh asked. "How do you keep going? We've been fighting for 2 hours. My body is breaking down. But you look like you could fight for days." Jun-Ho smiled tiredly. "I could fight for 3 days, actually. Maybe 4 if I had to. Humans evolved on a planet that tried very hard to kill us. We adapted. Our bodies don't give up easily. But why?" Tresh gestured at the evacuation center. "These aren't your people. This isn't your world. Why fight so hard for us?" Jun-Ho checked his rifle's ammunition counter. "My grandmother told me a story once. 1,000 years ago, before humans went to space, we had countries instead of one world government. She lived in a country that was invaded. Her neighbors, people from a different country, came to help fight. They didn't have to. They chose to. She asked one of them the same question you just asked me. He said, 'Because you needed help, and I could give it. That's all the reason I need.'" "That's all? Just because you can help? Is there supposed to be more?" Tresh looked at this human warrior. This legend made real, and felt something shift in his understanding of the universe. Meanwhile, in orbit above Vexar Prime, Scholar Minji Park had a different battle. She stood in the Council's great archive, the largest collection of knowledge in the galaxy. Surrounding her were 100 Council scholars from 40 different species. They wanted answers. "You've been watching us for 500 years, a moth person scholar said, her wings trembling with emotion. "You've seen everything we've done. Our mistakes, our triumphs. Were we just entertainment for you?" Minji shook her head. "No, never that. You were hope." She pulled up a hologram. It showed Earth, but not the green and blue world it was now. This Earth was gray and brown, scarred, broken. "This is Earth 1,000 years ago," Minji explained. "This is what humanity did to our homeworld. We had nuclear weapons. We had biological weapons. We had weapons that could crack continents. And we used them. 3 billion people died in wars that lasted 100 years. Our world almost died. Remenden Revaters, Mactive 4244. The Council scholars stared at the ruined planet in horror. "We survived," Minji continued. "Barely. And in surviving we learned. We learned that power without wisdom is suicide. We learned that winning means nothing if everyone loses. We learned that our strength was only valuable if we used it to protect, not to conquer." She changed the hologram. Now it showed the hyperspace gate network. The beautiful, glowing pathways that connected the Council worlds. "When we finally healed enough to go to space, we found you. 43 species. All young. All just discovering that they weren't alone. And we had a choice. We could use our advanced technology to rule you. To make an empire. Or we could give you the tools to connect, and then step back. Let you build your own civilization. Prove that intelligence could lead to cooperation, not just conquest." "Why did that matter to you?" asked a crystal scholar. "Because we needed to know if we were the exception or the rule," Minji said. "Were we the only species stupid enough to nearly destroy ourselves? Or is that a common stage? You proved it was common sense, not common stupidity. You took the gates we gave you and built something beautiful. 300 years of peace. 43 species, working together. You didn't need us to rule you. You ruled yourselves just fine. An old Vex scholar spoke up. But you watched. Always watching. Never helping. We had plagues. Disasters. Troubles that your technology could have prevented. Minji's face showed pain. I know. That was the hardest part. Watching you struggle with problems we could solve. But if we solved them for you, what would you learn? A parent who does everything for their child raises a weak child. We wanted you to be strong. We wanted you to be capable. And you are. You've built something we never managed at your stage. True cooperation across species. The archive fell silent. Outside, the battle raged. Human ships fought the devourers. Human soldiers protected. Council, citizens, human engineers worked alongside council technicians to evacuate worlds. You're still teaching us, the Vex scholar said quietly. Right now, teaching us what it means to be strong enough to help others. At the edge of council space, the 2,000 human dreadnoughts reached the hyperspace corridor. The swirling tunnel of bent reality stretched before them, and through it, endless devourers poured. Admiral Sujin Choi watched from the eternal vigil. All ships begin linking sequence. The dreadnoughts arrange themselves in a perfect sphere around the corridor's entrance. Energy beams connected them, ship to ship, forming a massive network. They were combining their reactors, pooling their power into something that had never been attempted before. They were going to collapse a hyperspace corridor. Seal it. Make it so the devourers could never use it again. The energy built. Reality screamed. Space itself protested what humanity was trying to do. Energy at 70%, the engineering chief reported. 80%. 90%. Feedback is building. We're losing ships. On the tactical display, red lights appeared. Ships whose reactors couldn't handle the strain. Ships being torn apart by the forces they were trying to control. Hold steady, Sujin ordered. We're almost there. 100 ships. 100,000 crew. Gone in seconds. 95%. Corridor is beginning to destabilize. Another 50 ships. Another 50,000 lives. 100%. Firing. The combined energy of 1,850 dreadnoughts, focused through technology that bent the laws of physics, struck the hyperspace corridor. Reality itself tore. The corridor collapsed. The doorway between dark space and council space slammed shut, and the price was paid. 210 ships total. Consumed by the forces they unleashed. But it worked. The devourers stopped coming. The ones already in council space were cut off from their home. They could be defeated now. It would take time, but it was possible. On the eternal vigil, Sujin allowed herself one moment of grief for the ships and crew she'd lost. Then, she opened a channel to the entire fleet. The corridor is closed. The devourers are cut off. Now we finish this. 1 month after the battle, the council chamber looked different. The walls had been repaired. The holographic displays showed green status lights instead of red. But the biggest change was in the seating arrangement. The observer section was empty now. The humans who had hidden there for decades sat at the main table, as equals. High Counselor Vexthor called the session to order. His scales had regained their shine, but something in his eyes had changed. He had seen his entire understanding of the galaxy rewritten in a single day. My friends, he began, we gather today for the first official meeting between the Galactic Council and the Human Alliance. We owe them our lives. We owe them our worlds. We owe them everything. Ambassador Jae Sung Kim stood. He had represented humanity in secret for 50 years. Now, he represented them openly. High Counselor, with respect, you owe us nothing. What we did because it was right. Because you are our neighbors, and because we've learned that the strong have a responsibility to protect, not to rule. Around the chamber, the 43 species listened. Some with gratitude, some with lingering suspicion, all with respect. A young representative from the Moth people spoke up. Ambassador Kim, I must ask. For 500 years, you watched us. You saw everything we did. Our mistakes, our failures, our small wars. Why didn't you intervene? Why didn't you guide us? Traced, Jae-sung smiled sadly. Because the greatest gift we could give you was the freedom to make your own choices, to learn from your own mistakes, to build your own civilization. If we had guided every step, controlled every outcome, what would you have become? Copies of us? Puppets? We wanted you to be yourselves. Scholar Minji Park added, we watched because we hoped to learn. Our species nearly destroyed itself with our power. We needed to know if that was our failing, or a universal truth. You proved it was our failing. You proved that species could be powerful and wise, strong and kind. You built something in 300 years that took us 1,000. You should be proud. Vex Thor stood and walked to the center of the chamber. I have spent the last month reading human history. All of it. Not just what you shared before. I read about your wars, your weapons, your near extinction. And I understand now why you hid. He turned to face the human delegation. You weren't testing us. You were testing yourselves. You wanted to see if you could have power and not use it. If you could watch suffering and not control. If you could be strong enough to be gentle. And you were. The chamber fell silent. It was a moment of understanding that 500 years had been building toward. Commander Junho Lee stood. His armor was polished, but it still bore the scars from the Battle of Kreth. High Counselor. The Devourers are defeated in Council space, but they still exist beyond the rim. The corridor is closed, but they're intelligent enough to find other ways through. This isn't over. Amen. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching. And Timon in number C. No, agreed Admiral Sujin Choi, who had come down from orbit for this meeting. It's not over. The Devourers are a threat to the entire galaxy. They'll come back. Maybe in years, maybe in decades. But they'll come back. A ripple of fear went through the council. However, Sujin continued, next time, you'll be ready. We're not here to fight your battles for you. We're here to fight alongside you. If you'll accept our help, we'll share our technology. We'll train your forces. We'll teach you everything we know about warfare and defense and survival. Why? Asked a Claw representative. Why give us such power? Aren't you afraid we'll use it against you? Jae-sung answered. Of course we're afraid. Fear of power is healthy. It keeps you cautious. But fear cannot be the reason you avoid responsibility. We were afraid of ourselves once. That fear made us hide for 500 years. But fear doesn't solve problems. Action does. Cooperation does. Trust does. And you trust us? Vex Thor asked. We trust what you've built, Jae-sung said. 300 years of peace. 43 species working together. Resources shared fairly. The weak protected. That's not easy. That takes wisdom. That takes courage. Yes, High Counselor. We trust you. The vote was called. Should the Galactic Council accept humanity as a full member? It was unanimous. 43 species, all voting yes. All choosing to stand, with the legends that became real. But Jae-sung raised his hand. With respect, we would like to propose something different. We don't want to be members of the council. We want to be partners with it. Equals, but separate. You built your civilization without us. You should keep it yours. We'll stand beside you, not above you, or within you. Vex Thor considered this. You want to be allies, not rulers. Exactly. The Council should remain what it is, a union of equals. Add us to it, and we become just another voice. But as partners, we can work together while respecting our differences. We can share our strengths without losing our identities. After much discussion, the agreement was reached. The Human Alliance and the Galactic Council would be separate but allied. They would share technology, coordinate defense, and help each other grow, but each would govern themselves. On Earth, President Hyun-woo Park watched the vote from his office beneath the Pacific. When the results came in, he allowed himself a smile. 500 years of hiding, 500 years of watching, 500 years of hoping that humanity had learned enough. They had. Dr. Young-hee Kim joined him at the window. "What happens now?" she asked. Now we meet our neighbors properly. We show them Earth, we learn about their worlds, we share our cultures, we become friends, not just allies. Some of them are still afraid of us. Good, Hyun-woo said. Healthy fear of power is what keeps power in check. We should never want to be so trusted that no one questions us. That's how we almost destroyed ourselves last time. The weeks that followed were chaotic and wonderful. Human ships visited Council worlds openly for the first time. Council ships came to Earth, to Mars, to the colonies humanity had built in secret. Children of 43 species played together in the streets. Scientists shared discoveries. Engineers collaborated on projects. Warriors trained side by side. On the planet Kreth, young Tresh joined a mixed unit of human and claw soldiers. On his first day, he approached Commander Jun-ho Lee. "Sir," Tresh said formally, "I wanted to thank you for holding the line, for showing us what it means to protect others." Jun-ho smiled. "You held the line too, Tresh, right beside us. You didn't run. You didn't give up. You fought for your people. That's what matters." "But I was so afraid." "So was I," Jun-ho admitted. "Fear is natural. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right even when you're afraid. You have that courage. Your people have it. We saw it during the war. Will you teach me?" Tresh asked. "Will you teach me to be like you?" "I'll teach you to be better than me," Jun-ho said. "Because that's what the next generation should be. Better than the last. Wiser. Stronger. Kinder. That's how species grow." In the Council archives, Min-ji Park worked with scholars from every species. Together, they were writing a new history. Not the history of the Council alone, or humanity alone, but of both. The story of how the builders gave their gifts and stepped back. How the younger species grew and thrived. How crisis brought them together. "What should we call this era?" asked the old Vex scholar. Min-ji thought for a moment. "The Awakening. Because we both woke up. You woke up to the truth about the builders. And we woke up to the truth that hiding wasn't protecting. It was just avoiding responsibility." On the eternal vigil, Admiral Soo-jin Choi stood before a memorial wall. On it were carved the names of every human who died, closing the hyperspace corridor. 210 ships, 212,000 crew. She read each name. She always would. Captain Min-seok Park joined her. "Admiral, the first class of mixed species officers has graduated from the academy. Humans, Vex, Claw, Moth people, and 12 other species. All training together, all learning from each other." "Good," Soo-jin said. "When the Devourers return, they won't face just human ships or just council ships. They'll face all of us. Together. Do you think we can win? Next time?" Soo-jin turned from the memorial. "I think we'll have a better chance, because we won't be fighting alone. And neither will they. The Devourers are just hunger. They don't understand cooperation. They don't understand sacrifice. They don't understand what it means to stand together. That's their weakness. And that's our strength." Weeks turned to months. The repairs continued. The alliances strengthened. The training intensified. Humanity shared their technology carefully, making sure the Council species understood not just how to use it, but why they should be careful with it. Power without wisdom was still dangerous, even in friendly hands. 6 months after the battle, Jae-sung and Vex Thor stood together on the observation deck of a new joint station. It floated between Earth and Vexar Prime, a symbol of the new partnership. Through the windows, they could see ships from both civilizations working together. I was angry at first, Vex Thor admitted. When I learned you'd been watching, it felt like betrayal. Like you thought we were children who needed supervision. I understand, Jae-sung said. If the situation were reversed, I'd feel the same. But I've come to see it differently. You weren't supervising. You were hoping we'd be better than you were. Hoping we'd prove that intelligence doesn't have to lead to self-destruction. We were never your experiment. We were your hope for the future. Yes, Jae-sung said softly. And you exceeded our hopes. You built something we never could at your age. You should be proud. Vex Thor looked out at the stars. What happens when the Devourers return? We stand together, human and council. We protect our neighbors, all of them. And if other threats come? Other invasions? Other crises? 9. Jae-sung smiled. Then we face them together. That's what partnerships mean. We're not going back into hiding. We're not going back to watching from the shadows. We're here, now. With you. As equals. As friends. As neighbors. Far at the edge of council space. At the closed hyperspace corridor. Monitoring stations kept watch. The Devourers probed the barrier constantly, looking for weaknesses. But they found none. The corridor was sealed. And on this side, a mixed fleet of human and council ships patrolled constantly. They were ready. And if the Devourers came back, they would learn a new truth. The galaxy had legends once. Stories of the builders, tales of warriors from a mythical world, dreams of protectors who would come when needed. Those legends were real now. But they weren't here to save the galaxy alone. They were here to stand beside it, to teach and learn, to protect and be protected. The builders had returned, not to rule, not to conquer, but to be neighbors, and together, the galaxy would face whatever came next.